Welcome to the Influential Personal Brand Podcast. This is the place where we help mission-driven messengers just like you learn how to build and monetize your personal brand. My name is Rory Vaden, and I'm the co-founder of Brand Builders Group, a Hall of Fame speaker, and New York Times bestselling author. And this show is to help experts learn how to become more wealthy and well-known. I know you're going to love it. Thanks for being here. Let's get started.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to a special summer edition of the Influential Personal Brand Podcast. AJ Vaden here, and today we're going to be doing something a little bit different and unique. And instead of having a guest on the show, I am going to have a solo episode highlighting not just my summer reads, but what I would consider my top 10 books that you should read if you are in business for yourself. So whether you call yourself an entrepreneur, solopreneur, a small business owner, perhaps you're in direct sales, or you just want to aspire to grow into a time in your life where you are doing your own thing, or perhaps you just want to be better at being a leader or your own professional development, wherever it is. I'm kind of calling this episode the Entrepreneur's Bookshelf. And it's not just for entrepreneurs, but really for someone who has that entrepreneurial mindset. That's really who it's for. It's for the person who is looking to grow in business and in leadership. And a lot of this is widespread and universal, regardless of what you do. But over the last 20 years, which it's kind of hard to say that out loud. I cannot believe that I have actually been in business for 20 years. But there's a collection of books, some oldies, but goodies, some newer ones, some that you will likely know, have heard of, or even have read, and maybe a few that are brand new to you. And what I have found is that over the last 20 years, there are 10 books that stand out to me that I refer to constantly, I recommend constantly. And also, it's like, even when I was going through all of my books, these are the ones that look more like workbooks than they did like books. These are the ones that had dozens and dozens of dog ears, highlights, stars, underlined circles, notes, and even looking through my phone where I keep a lot of my kind of recap notes. These are the ones that stand out to me. These are the ones that I remember. They are memorable. I have used them, and some of them have transformed me as a person, as a leader, and some of them very uniquely and specifically have transformed how we do business at Brand Builders Group. So without further ado, I'm going to jump right in as a summer special edition of what I would consider the top 10 books that you should read or you should know about if you are an entrepreneur. And these are in no particular order. Some of them I have the hard copies, and some of them I'm just going to have to refer to the audiobook version that I did. But these are my top 10 and what I would consider books that you should read, that you should know about. Number one, it's The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. So if you're watching this, I'm holding a picture of the book. This is one of the ones that I actually read, not listened to. And one of the things that I love about going back through these is how much of them are highlighted and everything. And here's what I would say of why I think this book is so important. The subtitle is Timeless Lessons on Wealth, Greed, and Happiness. And what I love about this book is it is not about the tactical aspects of how to make money, save money, or invest money. It's about the emotional side of money, of what grip does it have in your life, and how does that emotional side actually dictate how you make it, save it, and spend it, and invest it. And what I love when I look back about this book and the particular lessons that it taught me is that nothing should be done in extremes, right? And I think a lot of times as entrepreneurs or business owners or just as humans, we get all kinds of tips and information on, how do you get rich fast? How do you make money while you sleep? How do you, build a million or 100 million or $1 billion empire with the least amount of work possible? And, or the other thing that we hear all the time is, work hard, save lots, retire early. And there's just something to every single one of those sayings that I fundamentally don't agree with and I don't believe in. I personally don't, for myself, believe in retirement. I believe that way beyond retirement age, that I will continue to work because one, I love it, but because I believe that there is purpose in what I do. And the whole concept of retirement is somewhat a phenomenon, and only really did it start to exist in the last 75 years. Like prior to that, there was no such thing as retirement. And not saying that people should enjoy their golden years, but why not enjoy them with the utmost wisdom and the utmost life experiences? And it's kind of like at the peak of our learning, we look back and go, okay, we've done all this work, we've saved all this money, and now we're going to leave the workforce. And it's like you're kind of at your peak opportunity to mentor people, to share your wisdom. And this book isn't just about retirement, but it's about the way that we make, save, spend, and invest to get to this point of life where we are no longer contributing in a way that we have maximum potential to contribute. What I also love is the way that it talks about this concept of richness and wealth, and redefining really what that is in terms of money, but more importantly, outside of money. And that is really the heart and why I love this book, is that money clearly is necessary to live. And there's nothing wrong with having it. There's nothing wrong with spending it. But it cannot have a hold on your life. It cannot be the number one reason of why we make decisions. It cannot be the ruler of our life. We have to rule over it. Not the other way around. And so the psychology of money really helped me let go of some of the false beliefs that I had about money and investing and spending and saving, because it is a book about like all the things. It talks about investing and spending and saving and making. So don't get me wrong, it is not anti any of that. But at the core, it's making sure that the decisions we make when it comes to money are not making money king of our life over family, God, or, just even yourself, right? And I think that is why I think this is so important, knowing that money is a tool and it is not a ruler. It's a tool and we have to rule over it. So psychology of money, number one. Number two is Traction by Gino Wickman. And I would say this is a entrepreneur's guide to getting organized in your business. And the subtitle of this book is Get a Grip on Your Business. And here's what I love. And this is definitely one of those books you can even like look at this if you're watching this versus listening. Like every other page is dog-eared. I've got bookmarks and here's what I would say about this is this really outlines how to start the operational side of your business. And this is just kind of one of those things. This is the opposite of the psychology of money. This is extraordinarily tactical with lots of step 1, 2, and 3. This is how you outline your meeting. This is how you do an org chart. These are how you do job descriptions. These are how you run your meetings. These are how you set goals. This is how you get the team on the same page. It's extremely tactical, extremely framework oriented. And it really works more like a workbook than it does a book. And it goes through financial strategy, marketing strategy, operational strategy. And I really do believe this is one of the fundamental things that has helped us in terms of operations at Brand Builders Group. I picked this book up probably 6 or 7 years ago when I joined EO, which is the Entrepreneurs Organization, and a ton of people follow EOS, which is kind of like the guide tool of Traction. But I really started putting it into place at Brand Builders Group about 5 years ago, and I realized like we got a whole bunch of people running in different directions, and we all have different priorities, and there's not an overarching priority of where is everyone running. Right. And instead of having some people go left, some go right, some going forward, some going backward, it's like we needed to pull all of that together so that everyone was running in the same direction. And we run hard and we run fast, but we were not running in the same direction. Right. And it felt like you were like, being drugged between four horses, being quartered. And when we started doing traction, not that it has worked perfectly, but it has given us a format. It has given us a tool where we can all speak the same language. We all talk about rocks, right? We have quarterly rocks. We all decide on those together. We then subdivide them by department and role. And we know that once we make these decisions, and this is the most important part, if we all agree on the decisions we make together, then we know what always takes precedent, what always is a priority amongst the other priorities, right? And if you're in a fast-growing company or a startup per se, then everything can feel like a priority until you say, no, this is the priority, and everything else is subservient to this priority. And I think that's one of the things that I will mention in my next book that I'm going to talk about, which is Procrastinate on Purpose. You cannot have priorities. You can only have priority, right? That's singular. And that's what I think traction really helps you do as a small business owner, as an entrepreneur, is go, what are the tasks, the priorities that make up the primary priority that we're all running towards? And how does everything else fit in its place? How do we talk about it? How do we operationalize it? How do we have meetings about it? How do we get everyone on the same page? So it is a very tactical workbook for anyone who needs a little organization in their business. All right. So traction, Gino Wickman, which would lead me to my third, which is Procrastinate on Purpose. Shameless plug. This is my husband's book, Rory Vaden. And it is similar to The Psychology of Money in terms of what so many time management books talk about are the tacticals and the tips and techniques, which I do have another book that we're going to talk about that talks about that when it comes to productivity and time management. But what I love about Rory's book, Procrastinate on Purpose, 5 permissions to multiply your time, is it's about the emotional side of time management. And I love the psychology part, the emotional side of a lot of these books, because that's usually what we're not tapped into, right? We're being taught all these new technologies and all these tools and all these tips and these tricks and to-do lists and schedules and apps and all the things. At the end of the day, those things only work. They only work. Same thing with the money book, Psychology of Money. Like, all the investing strategies only work once you understand the emotional drivers of how you spend your money in that book. But in this book, Procrastinate on Purpose, it's the emotional drivers of how you spend your time. And both of these books made my top 10 because time and money are pretty much most commonly talked about things in business. At least in our business, it's what do we have time for and what do we have money for, right? It's what do we want to spend our time on? What do we want to spend our money on? It's where do we need to save time? Where do we need to save money? Where do we need to invest time? Where do we need to invest money? It's time and money. Time and money are also the 2 most common objections in sales, right? Time and money show up everywhere. And that should tell us, if it is everywhere, personally and professionally, we need to invest adequate amounts of time in understanding both the, tactical side, but just as importantly, the emotional side. Right? There is a logic to money and time. There is an emotion component, though, to time and money. And what I love about Rory's book is, one, he's so gifted, a God-given talent in consolidating lots of ideas and thoughts into simple processes and frameworks that visualize how things go together. And so his focus funnel is one of the most probably talked about things. He has a very widespread TED Talk called How to Multiply Your Time on this, if you want to get the highlighted version, even though I do recommend reading the book. But the focus funnel is a simple way of processing where you need to spend time. And I'll go through it really quickly. It's like, step 1, when a task comes onto my plate, the first decision I need to make is, can this be eliminated? Right? And if it can't be eliminated, then can it be automated? And if it can't be automated, then can it be delegated? Okay. And if it can't be delegated, can it be procrastinated on, or does it become a priority? Right. And a priority means it has to be done now. Procrastinate means it does need to be done. It just doesn't need to be done now. But just walking through all the tasks in my life of what are the things that I am spending time on that I should not be spending time on. One, because it shouldn't be done at all, but I'm doing it for some reason, or it needs to be done, but there is a system that it can automate it, or it does need to be done and it can't be automated, but there is someone else who can and should be doing it. And that's probably where I struggle, right? I struggle from the I can do it better syndrome, or I can do it faster syndrome. It's the curse of knowledge because I've been in the business a long time. Many business owners have this. And the truth is, that's actually only true for a short amount of time. Because once someone else is hired and trained and efficient in it, they actually can do it better than you and faster than you, because they do it more than you, right? But that does take time, money, and energy, resources to pull that off. But it's all about investing time into something now that will give you more time later. And that is the heart and the essence of the book, is helping you understand when you say the words, I don't have time, or I'm so busy, understanding why. Where does that come from? Because those are all choices that we're making. So what are the choices that are causing responses or feelings like that? And then what can we do about it? One of my favorite books of all time, not just because my husband wrote it, but because we all struggle with those two words, I'm busy. And this will help eliminate those from your vernacular. Maybe not immediately, but if you follow it, eventually those start to fade and going, it's no, I'm not busy. These are choices I made. This is a priority, or I'm going to do something about it. Right. Okay. Moving right along on the same kind of topic of time management, there's Rory's book, Procrastinate on Purpose, which is more of the emotional side. That is more of our choices that we make and what do we do about that. But then there's another book by Dan Martell. Don't have a copy of it to share, to show a picture of, because it was an audio book for me, but it's called Buy Back Your Time. And to me, as an entrepreneur, this is one of the best tactical books of systems and processes of how to do things like automate and delegate and prioritize. This is so helpful. Buy back your time. If you are in a place where you are actually ready to start delegating, where you can afford staff, and you have the time and energy, or even if you don't have the time and energy, but you can afford it and you have to make the time and energy, it is an amazing tool of working with a team and getting things off of your plate and how to get it on their plates. And I'm not talking about just an executive assistant or a chief of staff, even though it does go into great detail about finding the person, hiring the person, training the person, getting them up to speed, how to meet with them. I love it. I use it with my chief of staff. It is a very important tactical tool in how I run my personal and professional life. But also, more importantly, how do you just get your team members up to speed, right? And this is a really great book about operationalizing systems, specifically SOPs, right? And you should only have to teach something one time. Let me repeat that. Dan talks about how you should only have to teach something one time, because if you do it the right way, you only have to do it one time. And the right way isn't training a person, it's building a process. It's documenting an SOP. And he gives an amazing formula of how to build SOPs that are quick, efficient, and what the people will actually use, using video tutorials and keeping all of your SOPs 2 pages or shorter. That's right, 2 pages. We actually have some SOPs that are 56 pages at Brand Builders Group, and we are working our tails off on how do we get those down to 2 or 3 pages with bullet points and video tutorials. And that is a huge part of, it's one thing to spend all this time into building SOPs and training people, but if the people leave and nobody will use the SOPs, that was time wasted. So how do you get it right the first time? And you only have to train something once, because when you train it, you're actually building the SOP, you're building the video tutorial, so you never have to do it again. Such an amazingly tactical book, and how to buy your time back, right? And that is buying it back through processes and SOPs, and also people. So people and processes. Buy Back Your Time, Dan Martell. Such a good book. All right. I am staying on this kind of time management train for a second because it's not just that important to me, it's that important to all of us. This next book is one of the most life changing and business changing books of my entire life. And it's also by one of my favorite authors. And this book is called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer. And I have read almost every book he has written, but this was the first one. This is when I fell in love with his writing. And I fell in love with it because it changed my life. This is a book that I can literally point back to and go, based on the changes that I made in my life, I am a new and better person. I am a new and better mom, a new and better wife, a new and better leader, a new and better business owner. And I can also trace back the quarter that I read this book in 2022, which was spring of 2022, quarter two. I read this book and had an epiphany that we were just doing too much. Because at the end of the day, hurry is a byproduct of being overcommitted, of trying to do too much. And I had this epiphany of I was feeling burnout and going, I don't know if I can continue running at this speed. I don't know if I have it in me. I don't know if I want to have it in me. And after reading this book, I sat down and created a brand new business plan for Brand Builders Group. This was 4 years after being in business, and we were addicted to saying yes. Yes, we can do that. Yes, we'll figure that out. Yes, we'll add that. Yes, we can try to do that for you. Yes, yes, yes. Because one, we love ideas. We're little idea factories, but we also, we want to be a place of innovation and change and listening to our customers. And we were really plagued with saying yes to every opportunity. And I rewrote a business plan for Brand Builders Group, and the business plan including cutting half of our offerings. And that was scary. It included changing our pricing structure, how we priced it, what we offered, how we did things. And we went from 7 service offerings down to 3 in the matter of 3 months. And over the next year, we doubled our business. Not only did our business double in terms of revenue, but our business actually doubled in terms of client count and employee size. And that was pretty extreme growth for us because we were experiencing 10% growth, 15% growth year over year. And from 2022 to 2023, we doubled in business, doubled in size, both clients, employees, and in revenue. And I can trace that change back to implementing some of the things that were ahas for me from reading this book, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, of how more is not better always. There is not this incessant need of always doing more, but there needs to be an incessant need of always doing better, right? Better is better, not more is better. And I'm not saying less is better. In this case, less was better. It was better for us because it allowed us to focus in on our expertise, focus in on our avatar, focus in on our service offerings, and double down. But what it really allowed us to do is by doing less, we were allowed to do those things exceptionally better, right? And that's what it's about. It's not about doing more or less per se, but it's about choosing less so you can do it better and have it be more enjoyable and less stressful and actually enjoy the other components of life and business. And that all stemmed from the ruthless elimination of hurry. And I was ruthless in 2022 about removing stress, anxiety, busyness, and hurry from my life. It's probably one of the books I need to go back and read at the beginning of every year. This is a reread. Like I would say, this is one of those books that I would encourage I read every year because these are the things that we forget so often and we get caught up in the rat race once again. But this is one of the most impactful and significant books of my life, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer. So if that is not a testimonial, I don't know what is. Okay. Next books are kind of taking a slightly different turn. Talked about money, talked about time, and now we're going to talk about some other things that I think are really important. So I'll start with leadership, right? Clearly, it's an entrepreneur bookshelf. We should have that. This is one of my favorite books on leadership. It's Leaders Eat Last by Simon Sinek. I love this. Is like the subtitle is Why Some Teams Pull Together and Others Don't. And this is an oldie. I probably read this 15 years ago, but still reference it, remember it. And you know what I remember the most is the actual title. And I remember shortly after reading this book, the first company that I was a part of went on an incentive trip. This is not Brand Builders Group. This was pre-Brand Builders Group. And we went to Belize. And I was the part of the executive team organizing this trip for our top producers. And we just happened to go to Belize during this tropical storm. It was great timing. And I was at the checkout desk and I was making sure everyone else got checked in. And it was a small boutique hotel. We had pretty much reserved 50% of the rooms in this little boutique hotel on the island. And one of our top producers was checking in, and I had already checked in. And I had a king bed with my husband, Roy Vaden, who was also my business partner there. And I heard them tell this top producer of ours, who is, a guest on the trip, hey, we are out of king beds. Not the most convenient thing to hear as you're checking in with your wife. We only have 2 double bed rooms left. And I just saw the look that they had on each other's faces. And I am not the hero of this story. The book is the hero of this story. And I remember reading this book and going, leaders eat last. And in that particular case, what it meant is leaders get the 2 double beds. The team gets the king bed. And I walked up and I just said, hey, can you please swap our rooms? And it wasn't a big deal to me at the time. It really wasn't. It was a conscious decision to go, you first, me last. It was a conscious decision to go, I will be the first one to step forward, and I'm gonna take the bullet on this one. We can manage 4 nights and 2 double beds so that you can enjoy a trip that you earned. And again, I am not the hero in the story. The book is, but doing that, what it did for the producer was probably one of the most impactful things in my life that I didn't even expect, of the gratitude and the loyalty and the thankfulness of going, you didn't have to do that. It's like, yeah, but I did, because I chose to be the leader here. I am choosing to raise my hand first, to forge into battle first, to take the first risk. And that's what you're doing as an entrepreneur, right? I love, like on the back, it said, leaders are the ones who run headfirst into the unknown. They are the ones to rush into the danger. They put their own interests aside to protect the team or to pull us into the future. Leaders would soon sacrifice what is theirs to save what is ours. And they would never sacrifice what is ours to save what is theirs. That is what it means to be a leader. It means to choose first, to go into danger, head first into the unknown, right? And that's just on the back of the book, right? Like who's not inspired to read that a little bit of, okay, what does it really mean to be a leader? And in this regard, it's choosing to put others first. And how do you do that? Right? How do you do that in business? How do you do that in your team when there is a self-centered, selfish nature to all of us? I promise you, it was not my heart's desire to give up that king bed on that trip. And at the same time, it wasn't also the ultimate sacrifice, right? It was a choice of going, no, I made the decision to step into this leadership role. So I have to make the choice to also put others first. That's what I'm choosing as a leader. And I can think of countless other times through my life, even though I may not remember all the words on the pages of this book. However, like many others, it's dog-eared throughout, and I still have bookmarks highlighting the pages that I refer back to constantly. What it really is the reminder that as a leader, I am choosing last. I am choosing to put the team first. I am choosing to put others ahead of me. I am choosing to serve them above myself, right? And not serve any one person over the whole. That's not what I'm saying. It actually talks a lot about that. But what are the micro decisions we can make every day? And what are the macro decisions that we can make that affect a whole lifespan of a business or a team or a person. And I think that's why I love this book. And I can just, I think I probably even said, remember, leaders eat last hundreds of times over the last 15 years. And without any explanation, the team gets it, right? Other leaders get it. They're like, yes, I understand. This is a decision I made. I step into this. But reading this book helps you understand what are those micro decisions to make? How do you step into it? And how do you do it on a daily basis, but also on a much larger scale? So one of my favorite leadership books, Leaders Eat Last, Simon Sinek. I could go on and on about it. All right. In that same vein, and all right, I'm trying to make up some time here. Another one that I would call this for me a leadership book, Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. And I don't have a physical copy because it was an audiobook. And if you have read the book and haven't listened to the audio, I would highly encourage you to do that, because I think the storytelling component of Jocko and Leif in this book is so powerful. And it's kind of like an audio page turner. Like I remember going like, okay, I need to go on a walk or I need to go on a drive so I can put this in and listen to it. It's one of those things that it's just really enjoyable to listen to the storytelling components of it, the emotional side. So anyways, if you haven't listened to it, highly encouraged. But Extreme Ownership was actually a mandatory read 2 years ago at Brand Builders Group. Every quarter, we pick a book that the entire company reads together. And Q1 of 2023 was a mandatory read of Extreme Ownership. And it was one of the best decisions that we ever made as a company to go, one, we're going to read books together, mandatory, and two, this book. And I think one of the things that I love about this book is, well, one, I do have mad respect for our military and Navy SEALs and the stories and the lessons of leadership that come out of that. Because like when I think about my daily battles in leadership, they are microscopic to the significance of the ones that these people are making in our military. And just it puts it in perspective of when I'm stressed out about a formula on a spreadsheet, of the stress that carries and knowing that you carry someone's life in your hands, true life or death. And it's a really good book on perspective of what we call stress and anxiety and where we worry in the scheme of things, right? And it's been a great reminder to me of like, this is not a life and death situation, AJ. It is okay if there was a spelling error on the PowerPoint. Chill out. And at the same time, knowing that there is power and ownership of stepping in and as a leader, right? This is a leadership book of going, at the end of the day, someone's got to own it. And I'm not saying that as the entrepreneur, you own all of it, but at the end of the day, you're the business owner. It comes to you, right? You own the discipline of your team. You own the structure and the operational excellence. You own it by creating a culture of ownership. And I think this is a phenomenal book, both in storytelling and anecdotes and stories and examples, but also the emotional and the tactical side, which I really love. There are lots of strategic components to this paired with real life stories and examples, both military speaking, but also business case studies. And I think it's a really powerful thing to step into any business of going, at the end of the day, whether we succeed or fail, I'm going to own it. And again, that's for everyone in the company to have that attitude. It's going, hey, if this didn't go right, I own the mistake. And if it did, I get a part of owning some of the win, not all of it, because you know it never happens alone. But also having someone who steps in and who can quickly go, my bad. That was my mistake. I won't make it again. It won't happen again. Versus the person who's going to, pass blame, not own it, not tell, try to cover it up. This is about transparency. This is about teamwork. This is about honesty, integrity, and it's about ownership of how do we create ownership in a task, in a project, so that no one is looking around going, so who's to blame here? And instead everyone is going like, my part got done. But at the end of the day, what matters most is, did the thing get done? And that's what I would recommend about this book. If you feel like you have a team where people are going, hey, I did my part, but yet somehow the whole project didn't get done, then we got an ownership problem, because someone's got to own all pieces of it. And that's where I think teams really come together or fall apart, is for the person going, no, I did my part. That was not my department. That was not my role. Of going, we need a team of going, it didn't have to be my job. I ensured it got done. It didn't have to be my department. I'm going to be a part of making sure it gets done. Right. And that's what I love about extreme ownership. So Extreme Ownership, Jocko Willink and Leif Babin, amazing book. And I think just really important on a cultural standpoint of, do you have a team who comes together and gets stuff done, or does it fall apart? And do projects linger and deadlines extend? And if that's it, you got an ownership problem. And this is a great book to read in that vein. Now, on that note, there's another audiobook that I love. This is a new read. I actually just read this book this year in 2024. It's called Hidden Potential by Adam Grant. And I would say it is also, to me, in the leadership vein, because it's about seeking and searching for the potential within your team, right? And I actually am going to pull up some of the quick notes that I took on this, and just to kind of give you some highlights of what I love. What one person can learn proves that almost anyone can learn it if provided with the right learning opportunities and environment, right? And I think that's kind of the first thing. It's like, what one person can learn proves that almost anyone can learn that too, if provided with the right learning opportunities and environment. And I think therein lies the heart of hidden potential, of going, they may not believe it, you may not believe it, but if somebody else has done it, then someone else can do it. But the opportunity and the environment have to be structured in a way that allows that potential to emerge. And a part of our job as leaders is to provide those opportunities and environment, right? And I love that as I look at my team here at Brand Builders Group, I'm going like, where are there opportunities of hidden potential in every single person, in every role, in every department? And where am I not providing the right opportunities for those things to emerge? And maybe that opportunity is an invitation, maybe it's training, maybe it's a conversation, whatever it may be, but it has opened my eyes to seeing our team and the roles we have and the gaps we have in completely new and different ways. The second thing I would just say, this is, I think, really important in general for someone like me who's a little bit type A, high D, likes to get things done, 8 on the Enneagram. This is a really important one for me, is potential is not about where you start, but how far you travel. And that's one of the things that I've looked back and I'm going, wow, it's not about where we started. It's about how far we've come. And if someone can go, completely from, left to right in terms of growth and change, it's like there is potential of going, there is more to be done, right? And looking at the span of what people have overcome, have learned, that is an enormous thing that I now pay attention to in interviews. What were they able to overcome? How far have they come from where they started? And that shows so much about work ethic and personal growth and determination and endurance and perseverance. And those are the things that I want to build a team around, right? I also loved this whole thing. It's like, if you're comfortable, you're doing it wrong. It's a Ted Lasso quote in Hidden Potential. And I love that. And I love that as a reminder for me, for my own hidden potential. And I think one of the reasons I loved Hidden Potential so much is it wasn't about just our team. It was about me too. It's like, where am I comfortable? Like, where do I still have potential to grow, change, and evolve as a human, as a leader, as a business owner, as a mom, as a wife? And so Adam Grant, Hidden Potential, I think this is also in line with it's a people book. It's a leadership book. It's about looking for intentionally and finding ways to see the hidden potential all around you and the people on your team and the people that you're interviewing. And I think this is about exploration into how do we help people tap into what they were meant to become? And just because they aren't that doesn't mean they can't be that. And just kind of going back to that first thing, it's like what one person has learned proves that almost anyone can learn it, provided that we create and that there is, a created opportunity and environment that allows for it. So what can we do to cultivate such an environment? I love the book. I thought it was so good. Okay, moving right along here. Unreasonable hospitality. This is also a newer read for me. Unreasonable Hospitality, Will Guidara, is now on my permanent, probably top 3 books of all time that I've ever read. And I would also encourage, if you do listen to audio, to read this, because I think Will is an amazing storyteller, and he's so animated. And the whole thing feels like an adventure. It feels like you're on this journey with him, from being a restaurateur to having the top rated restaurant in the entire world, 11 Madison Park, to building a team and building a culture, and to be one of the top restaurateurs, and not be a chef, right? To be from the operations side, and knowing that like he actually did what he went to school for and had a passion for it as a young person. And then to make the decision to leave that for the betterment of the business and for the team. There is so much in here about creativity and a service and hospitality that I feel like has been lost. And unreasonable hospitality is really, how do you love people well? How do you love your team well? How do you love your customers well? How do you just love people? And in this particular book, it's through the art of hospitality, of making people feel welcome and cared for, paying attention to the little details. And they don't have to be expensive, but they do need to be personal. They need to be curated and unique so that people don't feel like they're a number. They feel like a person. And also providing your team with just enough opportunity to make decisions on their own, right? Nothing that's going to financially break the bank, right? We all have to have ownership, back to extreme ownership of the health of the business, but also just enough, bandwidth to be creative and unique, to do something on the spot, where you don't get caught up in a bunch of bureaucracy and red tape. And you can't even buy someone a thank you card without getting higher approval, right? And I think this is a beautiful story and a tangible book on how do you love people really well, through hospitality, through gifting, through experiences, through words, through food, which I loved, right? Through food. But how do you care? How do you serve people in unique ways through the gift and the art of unreasonable hospitality, unreasonable amounts sometimes to go, it is not always about $1. And I might lose on this one, but it's worth it because I know that at some point it'll come back. If you just love and serve people really well, that is the best marketing you can have, right? We say this all the time at Brand Builders Group, is that the best thing in the world is to turn your customer force into your sales force. How do you do that? You serve your customers undeniably well. And if you love them well and serve them well and provide for them well, they will become your sales force. And that is word of mouth marketing, right? That's referral marketing. That is why 11 Madison Park had unbelievable reservation wait lists. It was impossible to get into. And with the prices they charge, you would not think there were that many people, right? But that's because it was experiential and it was custom and unique. And also one of the things that got them to be rated the best restaurant in the world. And I think Will's story of creativity, of leadership, of culture, is unfounded in this book through the art of loving people really well. One of my favorite books of all time. This was also a mandatory read at Brand Builders Group, if that tells you anything. Unreasonable Hospitality, Will Guidara. So good. Okay. Ninth book. It's called Nothing to Prove, Jenny Allen. And subtitle is Why We Can't Stop Trying So Hard. And out of all the books that I've recommended, this is probably the one that is most personally associated, because this book is really catered to the person who finds their worth in their work. And that was me. It's still me. I'm overcoming this, right? But this was specifically designed for, I believe, entrepreneurs who find their identity into what they do. Or, it could be the stay-at-home mom who finds her identity in her kids. And one day, those kids grow up and leave. And as a mom, we look in the mirror and we go, who am I? And as entrepreneurs, sometimes we sell our businesses, we retire, or the business doesn't work out, and we look in the mirror and we go, who am I? Like, if I don't have this, who am I? And I know so many friends who have built wonderfully successful businesses that went on to have wonderful exits, only to find that they now felt lost, lonely, empty, and without purpose. And that happens when we have made our work our identity, when we have found our worth in what we do versus who we are. And I love this book. This is also the second book that I would say in my list that has radically changed my life. People will look back at me and be like, man, you're different. You sound different. You seem different. Like, your energy is different. And I will trace it back and go, if you think so, it's because of this book, Nothing to Prove by Jenny Allen. She's also one of my favorite authors. I have gone on to read almost every other book that she has written. And it's because I'm her avatar. I am the person who struggles with finding my worth in what I do, in my productivity, in my accomplishments, in my ambition. And I am the person who struggles with finding my identity in work. And that is a conscious thing that I'm working through to overcome. But if that is you, this book was written for you. It was written for your heart. It was written for your soul. And if you allow it to, it will change your life. So Jenny Allen, Nothing to Prove, one of the most life-changing books I've ever read. And it has changed the way I approach work and how I work. Because now I know that is not who I am. That is not my worth. I am so much more than that. And it is no longer my identity. My identity expands way beyond that. And even though we know that, when you're faced with it being gone, it's a whole different reality. And might as well be proactive. Let's get ahead of that. And this is a book that will really help you do that. Nothing to Prove. Okay. Actually, that was number 10. But I had a bonus one sitting over here, so I forgot. So those were my top 10 books. Psychology of Money, Morgan Housel. Nothing to Prove, Jenny Allen. Hidden Potential, Adam Grant. Unreasonable Hospitality, Will Guidara. Extreme Ownership, Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, John Mark Comer. Procrastinate on Purpose, But of One and Only Rory Vaden, my awesome husband. Buy Back Your Time, Dan Martell. Traction, Gino Wickman. And Leaders Eat Last, Simon Sinek. And then I have an 11th bonus one, because I would be remiss if I didn't also mention Take the Stairs by also my amazing husband, Rory Vaden. And this was his first book, released in 2010. And here we are 14 years later. And this is still probably like the most requested keynote that he gets. This book has been out for 14 years. It's an evergreen classic of, what are the things that you need to know about business and life and yourself to achieve true success, and defining what true success is. And Take the Stairs it's really a metaphor for just because you don't want to doesn't mean you should, right? And I think there's a lot of truth in going like, man, there are things that we don't want to do, but they are good for us. And they produce character and endurance in ways that nothing else can. And it's not that we should only want to do hard things, but it's facing the challenges and facing the hard things are what build character. Nobody looks back on the easy days and go, man, that really defined me. That doesn't happen. Nobody looks back on all the victories and successes and said, man, that success is what made me who I am today. We don't do that. We actually look back and go, man, that valley that I was living in for a really long time, that defeat, that failure, that loss, that's where I found my strength. That's where I found who I am. And I think a lot of what I love about this book, Take the Stairs, is it's embracing hard things, and it's choosing to do things even when you don't feel like doing them because you know they're good for you, right? And it's determining what those things are. How do you make those choices? That was my bonus pick for my entrepreneur bookshelf. Take the Stairs by Rory Vaden, 7 Steps to Achieving True Success. Y'all, there you go. This is my summer solo episode, the Entrepreneur Bookshelf. 10 books with a bonus 11 of what I believe every entrepreneur should know and read and embrace, to not only do work that you love, but to actually do good in the world. So check them out. Let me know what you think. Catch you next time on The Influential Personal Brand.